Hello and welcome back to another episode of Biblical Unlocks. This show is designed to help build your habit of reading the Bible, understanding the Bible, and applying it in your daily life, as studies routinely show that those who read their Bibles regularly have significantly lower symptoms of depression, anxiety, and anger, whilst also having significantly higher feelings of compassion, forgiveness, and a sense of purpose in their lives. So, if you enjoy episodes like this, please consider following and rating the show. It's free, it helps me out a lot, and you can always change your mind later. And today we're going to be going through Leviticus chapter 24, which contains two paired clusters. One is going to be the liturgical instructions about the lampstand and the bread of the presence, what we saw in Exodus, and how the sanctuary's light and table are to be kept, and who may eat the showbread. And then the second thing is going to be a striking legal episode about teaching and blasphemy and proportional justice. An Israelite who blasphemes the name is judged and put to death, and we're going to see the articulation of the lax talionis, or as we know before, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, or the retributive justice that is necessary in the Old Testament law, which Jesus Christ will later revise in the New Testament. And in Leviticus 24, we're going to follow the festival of and holiness instructions that we saw in chapters 22 to 23. And this chapter is actually moving between the sanctuary's daily devotional life, so that's lights burning, bread before the Lord, and the public life of the people. And it actually reminds Israel that the center of God's presence, that is where God is, that is his life, that is his light and bread, and the community must respect that presence. Okay, verses 1 to 4. The Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Command the Israelites to bring you pure oil of beaten olives for the lamp, that a light may be kept burning regularly. Aaron shall set it up in the tent of meeting, outside the curtain of the covenant, to burn from evening to morning before the Lord regularly. It shall be a statute forever throughout your generations. He shall set up the lamps on the lampstand of pure gold before the Lord regularly. Verse 5, You shall take choice flour and bake 12 loaves of it. 2/10 of an ephah shall be in each loaf. You shall place them in 2 rows, 6 in a row on the table of pure gold before the Lord. You shall put pure frankincense with each row to be a token offering for the bread, as an offering by fire to the Lord. Every Sabbath day Aaron shall set them in order before the Lord regularly as a commitment of the Israelites, as a covenant forever. They shall be for Aaron and his descendants, who shall eat them in a holy place, for they are most holy portions for him, from offerings by fire to the Lord, a perpetual Jew. Okay, in verses 10 to 16, we're going to go through blasphemy and its punishment. Verse 10, a man whose mother was an Israelite and whose father was an Egyptian came out among the Israelites, and the Israelite woman's son and a certain Israelite began fighting in the camp. The Israelite's woman's son blasphemed the name in a curse, and they brought him to Moses. Now his mother's name was Shelomith, daughter of Dibri, of the tribe of Dan, and they put him in custody until the decision of the Lord should be made clear to them. Verse 13, Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Take the blasphemer outside the camp, and let all who were within hearing lay their hands on his head, and let the whole congregation stone him, and speak to the Israelites, saying, Anyone who curses God shall incur guilt. One who blasphemes the name of the Lord shall be put to death. The whole congregation shall stone the blasphemer. Aliens as well as the native born, when they blaspheme the name, shall be put to death. Anyone who kills a human being shall be put to death. Anyone who kills an animal shall make restitution for it, life for life. Anyone who maims another shall suffer the same injury in return, fracture for fracture, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. The injury afflicted is the injury to be suffered. One who kills an animal shall make restitution for it, but one who kills a human being shall be put to death. You shall have one law for the alien and one for the native born, for I am the Lord your God. Moses thus spoke to the Israelites, and they took the blasphemer outside the camp and stoned him to death. The Israelites did as the Lord had commanded Moses. Alright, time for some deep biblical unlocks. In verses 1 to 9, we saw the lampstand and the bread of presence. What does this mean? The lampstand. What does the lampstand mean? The Lord commands that the lamps on the pure lampstand be tended, so that the sanctuary is continually lit. And what this represents is it's a routine. It is a disciplined duty. The priests need to maintain the light. And then the showbread we saw were 12 loaves, which are placed on the table before the Lord every Sabbath, and they are for Aaron and his sons to eat in a holy place as their portion from the Lord. So the light and the food, that represents God's sustaining presence. The lamp symbolizes God's guidance and illumination, and the bread symbolizes God's continual provision and the covenant relationship. And what do the 12 loaves represent? The 12 loaves are the 12 tribes of Israel, and the 12 tribes correspond to the 12 apostles, which we'll see in the New Testament anyway. Okay, and then what we see in verses 10 to 16, the blasphemy case, right? So we saw an Israelite who is the son of an Israelite mother, an Egyptian father, gets into a fight and blasphemes the name. Moses consults God, and the man is put under guard and is ultimately stoned outside the camp for being brought, or after being brought in front of the congregation. Now, interestingly, God frames severe sanctions here, because anyone who blasphemes the name shall be put to death, whether native or foreigner, when the community brings the case. And what this means is speech actually shapes covenant life. Words about God and about others, they're not merely private utterances. They actually affect your access to God. And public adjudication and witness is also present here. The entire congregation participates. The priests and the judges are involved, and justice is public. It's not a private matter, right? It's not a private vendetta that is being settled. And then we also see the importance of God's name, the gravitas associated with God's name. The divine name stands as God's presence, and profaning it undermines the people's relationship with God. Right, so that's what we see here. Even in the New Testament, Matthew, we read in Matthew chapter 12, verse 36 to 37, that the speech and the heart are closely related. What someone speaks is a direct representation of what is deep in their heart. So we shall not profane the name of God in vain. And in verses 17 to 22, we also see that the chapter concludes with the command that life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth be applied, and crucially insists that foreigners are to be treated with the same way as natives, the same law for the residents and the sojourner. The purpose is orderly, it is proportionate justice, it's not revenge. And this is something people need to understand about the law of retaliation, or the lex talionis. Essentially, what it is instituted for is not to continue a cycle of unending revenge, pain, and suffering. The lex talionis was actually instituted to limit the amount of justice or retribution a person could inflict on someone else. It was meant to limit it. Okay. However, in the New Testament, Jesus has a new reinterpretation of this verse. In the past, it's not a contradiction. In the past, people were able to get back at their accuser or get back at the person who caused them harm in the same manner, but not any more than the person who caused them harm. But in Matthew chapter 5, verses 38 to 48, he discusses this very law. He says, "You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth." This is in Exodus chapter 21, then in Leviticus chapter 24, and then later in Deuteronomy 19. It keeps repeating over and over and over again. But he says, "But I say to you, do not resist the one who is evil, but if anyone slaps you on the right cheek, turn him the other also. And if anyone would sue you and take your tunic, let him have your cloak as well. And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2 miles. Give to the one who begs from you, and do not refuse the one who would borrow from you." Wow. This is the new interpretation. This is to say, don't even bother getting back at your accuser. Don't even bother seeking revenge, because God is the one who has the ultimate revenge. He is the one who has ultimate retributive justice, and he will right every wrong. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. And where is the Christological fulfillment in all of this? Jesus Christ. All of this is pointing again forward to Jesus Christ. The sanctuary's bread and lamp, think about it, they point forward to Christ, because in John chapter 6 Jesus calls himself the bread of life. In John chapter 8 Jesus calls himself the light of the world. And the temple's sustenance and illumination, they find ultimate fulfillment in him. Blasphemy in speech. The New Testament focuses on the heart behind the speech in Matthew chapter 12, and how all is forgiven in Jesus Christ, but it upholds the reality that words can wound and they must be owned. And justice is ultimately fulfilled in Jesus Christ as he embodies perfect justice and mercy, and the law's moral aims remain justice and protection for the weak, but are brought to healing in the gospel. So, Leviticus 24, it interweaves a bunch of devotional routines as well as moral seriousness, and even gives us a little bit of a practical story about blaspheming and the consequences of blasphemy in the ancient Near East, in Israel. So, important, make sure the lamp of your life is steady. It's not flickering, right? Tend the lamp, make daily spiritual decisions. So start a simple morning, evening rhythm for 21 days. Morning, 5 minutes, have some scripture, listen to this podcast, pray, have a reflection. Where did I stray today? And treat it like tending the lamp that the Israelites would do in the tent. Then give God the bread of the first fruits. You need to allocate your best to God. Do you give God your leftovers, or do you give him your first and freshest attention? When you wake up in the morning, is it for God or is it for yourself? Is it for your job? Is it for your family? Give God scripture, solitude, service, and make it visible to an accountability partner so that you can stay on track. And make sure that you keep your speech and you treat your speech with reverence, and you need to guard the name of God. And then within this regard, you need to have a really, really good understanding of what you're saying. Don't just say whatever just for the sake of saying it. You need to have a control over your tongue, because again, remember, the tongue is a representation and reflection of what is deep down in your heart. The things someone says is a reflection of their mind, mentality, and their personal situation. So you need to be very careful. And anytime you do say something careless about God or even someone else, make sure that you take a restoring step. Apologize, correct, bless the person you spoke about, ask for forgiveness, and he will give it to you. And you need to practice proportionate justice, right? Anytime you feel like you want to apply the lex talionis, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, think about a choice which is aimed at repair, not revenge. Don't seek to resist the one who is evil, but if anyone slaps you on one right cheek, turn to him the other also. And you'll see the reactions are completely different. My question to you is, do you keep your heart as a lamp burning towards God, or is it a secret storehouse which is feeding shame, right? Because Leviticus 24 actually ties a devotional routine, the lamp and the bread, to communal integrity, that is speech and justice. Lust thrives in darkness, late night isolations, on leftovers, time and attention which is given to screens instead of God, and in careless speech when you use people as objects in talk. And the remedy to this is to rebuild those steady devotional habits that illuminate the heart and apply communal and legal rhythms that make sin public, proportionate, and reparative. Don't let it hide in the darkness. Remember, when Jesus healed people, they had to give out, they had to show themselves, they had to be vulnerable, they had to show their stinky, rotten arm so that he could heal it completely. So that's it for this episode of Biblical Unlocks. This show is designed to help you keep up your habit of reading the Bible, understanding the Bible, and applying it in your daily life. I upload daily, so if you don't want to miss tomorrow's episode, feel free to rate the show and follow. Otherwise, just have a blessed day. And always remember, If you're not in your word, you're in your feelings. Godspeed.